Hey guys, it's Eric with the Miller Park Man, where we're throwing strikes, getting likes, hitting dingers, getting listeners. Back again with your only Brewers daily podcast in the game right now. Talking baseball, Brewers every day, 24/7, 365. We are chatting Brewers. So always here for you, 5:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. We are on your favorite platforms, Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Pocket Cast, YouTube, you name it, we are there. You can join the conversation for Saturday nights at 4 to 5 o'clock, depending on when the games end with spring training. It all is going to change once the season starts, but that's where we're at as of right now. If you want to rate, review, subscribe on your favorite platform, we'd appreciate that, guys. We're just having fun here. So if you want to support us, you can go over to patreon.com/MillerParkMinute. You can also use our SeatGeek code. We have a SeatGeek code for $20 off your first order with SeatGeek. So that being said, we're going to get into today's episode. So we're going to talk about the spring training game, just a couple little news and notes from there, some things that Corbin Burnes had said after the game, some new rules that we're figuring out as we go. So that's always fun and exciting. Then we're going to go over the news and notes of the day, talk about a couple things, and then we're going to break into WBC coverage, and there's some fire going on in the WBC. So we want to talk about that. And then after all of that, we have a special guest. So stay tuned for that. That is Greg Matzek. He's going to be at the second half of this episode. So if you just want to hear Greg Matzek, fast forward to the end. We'll have that bookmarked for you so you can see it. It's going to be about the halfway point, probably. So, that being said, let's get right into today's game notes. We will also be covering BrewersFanatic.com and what they got going on over there. But today we had a spring training game. The Brewers improved to 7-9 with an 8-0 victory over the Cincinnati Reds. Corbin Burnes took the hill today. Had a pretty good outing, pretty solid all the way across the board. He went 4 innings, so he's upped it by an inning. And that's a slow progression of spring. He only gave it 1 hit, 1 walk, struck out 5. So pretty solid for Corbin Burnes. He was followed by Robinson. Robinson only gave up 1 hit, no earned runs. Did not strike anybody out. Bryce Wilson came in 3 2/3 innings. Only gave up a hit. Did not allow any runs. Struck 2 out. And then, of course, Cousins did the final third. And he struck out 1 in his final. So he struck out the 1 batter he faced. Oh, gosh, I'm sorry. 4 innings pitched for Corbin Burnes on spring training, though. That's a good sign, good start. Brosseau again today was a story. 3 for 4 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs. So that's really stellar. Also, our boy Luke Voigt went 2 for 2 with a walk, an RBI, and a run scored. So big day there, big day. No home run bats. We did get to see Churio again. Got 2 at bats. Weimer was out there. Got 3 at bats. Got a hit. Owen Miller was out there. You know, the regular crew. We got DH William Contreras today. So he has not taken much time off since he started at Brewers. This was one of the big things that we're talking about. He not only has to learn an entire new staff, but he's also going out there and he's going to DH on his off day. So that's pretty awesome. Caratini got the time behind the plate today. Caratini was Burnes' catcher of choice a lot of times last year. Looks like Hira got a hit today as well. Monte Harris was in. Peyton Henry got some time in. But Brosseau is the monster numbers coming up strong. So there was a moment today, and I'm going to simply play the audio because Corbin Burnes puts this into words at the best point here. And I'm going to play the audio for you guys so you can hear kind of what Corbin Burnes had to say. This is straight off of Twitter Kurt Hogg's account, if you want to watch the video of it. He seems pretty emotional and pretty intense because there's a new rule that got changed. And one of the things he says here and talks about is they need to figure out and tighten this up because they are, making kind of learning as they go, and they need to tighten this up and figure this out because that's a loophole. This incident is a loophole. So I'm going to play exactly what Corbin Burnes says here.
After it was a long hold, he stepped out, and then apparently they made a change to the rule last week that we can't come set now until the batter's fully engaged in the box, which is by 8 seconds. So I guess that was changed a couple days ago, and I didn't know about it. So the league's got to do something that's finalizing these rules. And now that we're 2 weeks away from the season starting, we're still changing the rules that can't happen. So we've got to get on top of that. The umpires are still out there trying to learn the rules as they go. So the thought coming in is that everything was finalized. We had a month to kind of figure everything out, and as we're going, there's still things that are changing. Which that's got to stop. That's got to be something that we have something finalized. So these last 2 weeks we get caught up with them. So I think a lot of players knew this was going to happen, just because there are so many holes in all the rules that the league put in play. And I think Scherzer exposed a lot of these guys that are trying to mess with it are exposing it. And unfortunately now they're making changes to it, trying to eliminate some of that stuff, and it just is causing confusion and a lot of guys and umpires. So make for a weird wonky situation. And so what happens then is now the hitter doesn't have to be engaged in the box for 8 seconds, and it takes a couple seconds to get set. So now really the pitcher's only got 5 seconds to pitch. So that creates different timing as far as guys on base, and it eliminates a little bit of uncomfortability in the box. The guy running it just shortens up your time frame. So.
That's the hitter in control.
Right. If it's hitter back in control after they've used a timeout. Originally, the way the rule was written was that you couldn't pitch until the hitter was engaged. Had nothing to do with coming set until the hitter was engaged. And now that they've changed that, something needs to be adjusted with the pitch clock, whether it's the pitch clock stops when the guy comes set or just revert to back. You can't pitch until the guy's in the box and engaged. So obviously, there's still some wrinkles to figure out on that front, but yes, like I said, it's got to get figured out here quick.
So that was what he had to say. Basically, the scenario transposed in the second inning here today's game, and basically it was a manipulation of the pitch clock to get extra time. The batter stepped out, and Corbin Burnes had to disengage from his pitching stance. Not a good look. Not something we want to see with these new pitch clocks and these new rules right away. It's absolutely ridiculous, to be honest. And I'm glad it's happening now versus in 3 weeks when we're in live game mode. But still needs to get fixed, needs to get worked out. I don't like it. I don't like the look. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating. And Corbin Burnes, I mean, you could see we're no longer worried about things that were said about Corbin Burnes. We're talking more about what's happening to him by the new rules. So, yeah, disappointing to see that that's kind of how things are working out at this juncture, but we'll hope for the best. I mean, that's all we can do at the end of the day. We'll talk real brief. Go over to our friends at Brewer Fanatics. Oh, I didn't give time of the game. Hold up. Let's go back. Time of the game. 2 hours and 56 minutes. This is just case in point for reference. I bring this up every day. So we're going to talk real brief about our friends over at brewerfanatic.com. Brewer Fanatic is a fan community, fan base. This is fan content, fan writers. We are writing stuff. We're putting out videos every day for you guys. Right now they're working their way through the positional previews. If you want to read those in-depth previews, comment, have conversation. There's great conversation to be had. We are celebrating 1 year, so happy birthday to brewerfanatic.com, formerly brewersfans.org, changed to brewerfanatic.com. So good stuff over there. Go check my page out, check my views out. We are 16 days away, according to the ticker on brewerfanatic.com, from opening day in 2023. That is beautiful. All right, that being said, let's break into the news, guys. Let's see what we got to talk about today in the news. I guess it's not that much. Milwaukee Brewers pitcher Janson Junks shows progress with splitter. So he's been working on splitter all offseason long. And it looks like it came to fruition the other day in his spring training debut. Or in the debut of the pitch, I should say. In the start, Junk carved up hitters with a splitter, a pitch he had added to his repertoire about a month prior following the trade from the New York Yankees. But when Junk was called up to the majors for the first time a few days later, the Angels told him to scrap the sinker in favor of a changeup. Everybody likes that changeup. I couldn't really throw the splitter with big league ball for some reason. I don't know what the deal was with the balls, but it was not a good pitch. I was out there, and they're like, yeah, just go back to the changeup. So I kind of abandoned it. Junk has gone back to using the slider following the trade to the Brewers. And he's commented to say, I think that's just the kind of wrong mindset. I should have gone back to the split after having a full offseason adjusting to the ball. So basically, when you go to the majors, what happens is the ball is a little different. The ball from the minors to the majors is different, and he was just adjusting to it, and it took some adjustment time. They told him to scrap it for the time being. I don't think they meant just like you can't throw that pitch, but so he had to work on it. And these guys work on new pitches every year, so they work on continuing to get the changeup better, or the cutter in Corbin Burnes' case, and those things progress over time. So Junk's best outing of the spring came Sunday against the Cubs. Junk had the split on display, albeit only twice, in a crisp outing Sunday as the Brewers beat the Cubs 5-3 at Sloan Park in Mesa. He instead focused primarily on sequencing his slider and fastball and executing the marvelously in holding the Cubs at a lineup to one hit over 3 scoreless. His better performance for Junk than he had previous 2 outings. It's nice to see a guy in spring when he gets executing. I can put up a scoreless inning, but I expected that. I have high expectations for myself. So he's very happy, and it's good. It's good to see where that's coming. The other piece, there's another piece here to the news that I wanted to cover. And this is kind of just the expected at this juncture. We are talking getting towards the final weeks where you want your major league guys to play more. So we're going to see more of that in the coming weeks here. So, from Twitter earlier today. Oh, it's not synced. It's not synced. Let's go to the iPad. The iPad syncs faster. For whatever reason. Technology, baby. Technology. All right. So, at this current time, Abner Uribe was optioned to AA Biloxi. Janson Junks, Cam Robinson, Ethan Small, all optioned to AAA Nashville. Alex Jackson, Alex Claudio, Robert Gasser, JC Mejia, Colin Ray, Theo Vera reassigned to minor league camp. So like I said, this is that time of year where the players start to get being sent to where they're going to be, where they're going to play in the long haul. And that's where you're going to see a lot of these transactions happen. They're just going to go to where they need to be. You're focusing on your major league roster and get them all the time in the world to prep. We talked about Corbin Burnes already. There's just an article that was written by Kurt Hogg, basically about what we just talked about. Corbin Burnes doesn't want them to change the rules. As of right now, he is not content with them changing that rule. He seemed quite angry actually in that presser, so that was pretty fun. And then really, it's all the same old, same old. How to watch Chicago Cubs and Brewers. Okay, I don't know why that's covered, but yeah. We haven't talked about lately, and I'll just cover this in brief. We haven't talked about Bally and all the stuff going on because there really isn't any news. But that's to be expected because we're going to see something in the next few days here because I believe they had till the 14th, which is tomorrow. So in the next 24 to 48 hours, we should hear something. We're on the Bally Sports Watch, much like the other watch that's going on, only less negativity. Well, still, I guess the Rogers Watch and the Bally Sports Watch are kind of the same. Lots of negativity surrounding them all the way across the board. So that being said, we are going to hop on over to the WBC, the World Baseball Classic. And yes, it is going on right now as I record this podcast, but unfortunately, due to copyright rules, I cannot have it on in the background of my video. This is what it is. But Team USA is in action against Canada. It's the bottom of the first, and they are 6 runs up on Canada. So after Canada put up 18 on Great Britain, we are 6 runs up on them at the bottom of the first. So one of the things that's happening with these games is due to lack of depth of starting pitchers, they are running out of they can't run a great starter out there every day. Just is what it is. But the big story of today was there was a perfect game thrown for Puerto Rico. So 4 pitchers combined to throw a perfect game. No hits, no walks, no runs. Perfecto. In a game which is straight up awesome. I mean, that's cool. This is the first one in WBC history. We'll go to the box here. Talk about our pitchers because that's so this Puerto Rico team has on it, and it was against Israel. Puerto Rico team has Lindor, Kike Hernandez, Melendez, Rivers, Rosario, Martin Maldonado, former Brewer, is on this squad, and he caught this game. Beautiful. All right, so pitcher number 1, Jose De Leon of Minnesota. He went 5 2/3 innings, striking out 10. Next on the list, I'm going to butcher it, is Yaxaquiel Royos, 29 of the Atlanta Braves. Sorry, Yaxaquiel. Edwin Diaz of the Mets got in on this action for an inning, struck out 1. Jackson struck out 1 as well. And then finally, Underwood Jr. was the final. Dwayne Underwood Jr. of the Pittsburgh Pirates. He did a scoreless frame as well with no strikeouts. So there's 12 total strikeouts in the game. Of course, no walks, no runs, no hits, nothing like that. Just a cool day. Lindor actually went 2 for 3. He had a triple, walk, 3 RBIs, a run scored, a stolen base. Javi Baez went 2 for 3, two doubles, 2 RBIs, 2 runs scored, and a stolen base as well. So just an all-out stomping on Puerto Rico, or on Israel by Puerto Rico. Israel is now 1-1. Puerto Rico moves to 2-1 with this matchup. The USA ended up losing last night to Mexico, so we are now in the category of 1-1. We're tied with Mexico and Colombia, facing off against Canada. So if we can put a loss on Canada, we could jump to the first place. Great Britain got a win today, so they are 1-2 on the tournament, sitting at last place. In Pool D in Miami, Venezuela is 2-0, Puerto Rico is 2-1, Dominican is 1-1, Israel is 1-1, and Nicaragua is 0-3. We already talked about Japan's 4-0. They move on. Australia is 3-1. Korea is 2-2. Czech Republic is 1-3, and China was 0-4. Cuba, we talked about that. Bracket's all tied up. So that's about the end of the WBC coverage and everything we got there. So what we're going to do from here is we're going to move right into the earlier today. I recorded the interview with Greg Matzek. We talked spring training. We talked about some of the players, lots of subjects there. So make sure to enjoy that part of the episode here. That's coming up next. So we're going to go right into the Greg Matzek interview from here. We have a very special guest, Greg Matzek of 620 WTMJ, the flagship station. He is coming on to talk with us and have a brief chat about the Brewers. So without further ado, here is Greg Matzek. Greg, how are you doing?
Hey, man. Doing great, man. Excited for the season. I spent a week in Arizona, and I can report some interesting things, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But I'm excited for what the Brewers are going to bring back from Arizona.
So now you boots on the ground. You've been there. Any word on the Craig Counsell situation? Or are they just kind of riding it out right now as far as his going in as a lame duck manager this offseason?
Yeah, you're not going to get any comment from Matt Arnold about that. Craig's not going to talk about it as they approach the season. But I don't think it's unrealistic to look at this as potentially Craig's final year managing. His kids are getting older. His kids are getting into college. He is an active father, and he's going to have kids sort of peppered around the country, some local, but not every one of them. And he wants to be involved. I do know that, and he's done a tremendous job doing that, even to this point, with a very busy schedule, as you might imagine. So I do wonder about, his desire to manage long-term as his kids get a little bit older. I know he loves managing the Milwaukee Brewers and putting the Brewers uniform on, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that the Brewers are looking for a new manager next year. And I'm not suggesting Craig would be fired or anything like that, or they're disappointed with his performance. I certainly don't believe that to be the case. I don't hang last year's fall from the top spot in the division on Craig. I hang that more on the front office. But this time, a year from now, it's certainly possible could be talking about a new era of Brewers baseball beginning with a different manager.
For sure. Now, this year has been very different with players like Rowdy, Urias, Devin Williams not in camp at this point with this WBC going on. I've spent a lot of time talking about this WBC. How did that kind of affect people getting ready? I'm assuming you were just there or were recently there. Were people players more ramped up this offseason? Yeah,
so I think for some it was just sort of business as usual. With the exception of a guy like Sal Frelick, right? I mean, here's the big difference with the WBC, which, by the way, I really like as part of spring training versus after the regular season or force-fitting it somehow during the season. Like, that's just never going to work when players are either coming off 162 games plus the playoffs or in the middle of it or gearing up for it. Gearing up for it seems to be the way where you can just sort of go about your business and then start the regular season kind of like normal. But the big difference is with some of these players is travel. I mean, Devin Williams drives 20 minutes the other direction in Arizona, and he's where he needs to be. Sal Frelick has to get on a plane and fly to Taiwan to play for Team Italy. So, the World Baseball Classic is truly accurate in its name. It's not all in Arizona or California or even North America for that matter. You've got guys peppered all around the world. And 15 members of the Brewers organization are involved in the World Baseball Classic. And again, some are local. Rowdy Tellez playing for Team Mexico. Doesn't have to go too far. Same with Devin Williams. But others have really had to put on some miles here with their travel. But Craig Counsell said it, and we talked about it when I was there a couple weeks ago. This is maybe a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for some of these players. So to go play for your country, Craig is 100% behind it. He would have done it himself had that opportunity presented itself. So it doesn't appear to be too big a disruption for the majority of players. But I think with some, it's certainly a departure from the norm in your routine at spring training. And Sal Frelick, to me, is kind of at the top of that list.
For sure. I mean, speaking of spring training, I mean, right now we're kind of in that point where we're just kind of getting guys out there to see, if they can work out the lumps. And a lot of players have actually said spring training is more for pitchers than it is for your batters. Was there anybody in your time that seemed more closer to the path? Do you have any concerns about anybody you've seen so far? Or are they all where they need to be, you think?
Yeah, spring training is interesting, Eric, because you want to see results. I mean, do people get nervous if Corbin Burnes gives up 3 runs and then afterwards says, I'm just trying to get my cutter working, right, to get that in the right spot? I felt it was off. I kept going after it. Right, if hitters know you're working on something, they can likely take advantage of it. And I also look at it from a hitter standpoint. Do you get wrapped up that Garrett Mitchell has 3 home runs and that Yelich has got a couple of home runs already and a couple of doubles? I'm not going to get too excited about that, but I am certainly going to look at that as better than the alternative, right? And the alternative is not getting in that comfort zone in the batter's box, not seeing the ball well, and having that sort of carry over to the regular season. I'm not sure how many times in recent history you've paid attention to spring training stats, but if I ask you what Luis Arias did last year in spring training, you would likely say, I have no freaking idea, because in large parts, it doesn't matter. But you like to see guys build that confidence, and March really is the time to do that. Like Mike Brosseau has done incredible things with some increased opportunity. Owen Miller's seen the ball pretty well, it would appear. And with Garrett Mitchell's hamstring, he's getting a little bit more time to play the outfield. Luke Voigt has done a nice job. Sort of a recent acquisition by the Brewers right around the time spring training started. Weren't sure exactly where he fit, but that's a guy who can hit pitching. He can absolutely hit major league pitching and has done it with 20 home run plus seasons. So you like to see guys find their comfort zone versus struggling in the month of March. And it's hard for me to find too many players that are really scuffling, like it's just not coming together. I'm more encouraged by the players who appear to be in a pretty good spot right now, halfway through spring training.
And I feel like we're at this spot where we take the good and we just forget about the bad. You know what I mean? Like that's just where spring training is going to be, and that's how it is. Now, when you talk about going into the season, is there any players that you have an eye on, or anybody that you think is going to be kind of a standout or a breakout, or build off of what we saw in 2022? This is a new look roster. I mean, it's got some of the same old faces, but we're seeing a lot of new faces too. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a surprise. I mean, if I'm buying a jersey today, it's Garrett Mitchell's. I think he's a star, a legit star in Major League Baseball. He'll start in center field day 1 at Wrigley, assuming they play and the weather's not too crappy. Biggest question for me is, where will Mitchell start the season in the batting order? Because I do think at some point he could be your leadoff hitter. And if you're starting to see the power that we've seen from Christian Yelich in spring training in a small sample size, it's possible Yelich goes back to that number 3 hole, maybe the number 2 hole, flip-flop with Willy Adames, and then you've got Tellez and Contreras. Like, you've got a nice 1 through 5. My gut feeling says Mitchell starts the season as the number 9 hitter, but I would not be surprised if at some point in the season he becomes your leadoff hitter, in part because of what he's doing, and you're also starting to see a little uptick in production with Christian Yelich's at-bats. Productive at-bats where he's hitting doubles, he's hitting home runs again. It's not just walks and singles. You do that kind of stuff, and you're going to move to that number 2, number 3 spot. So keep an eye on that. I think he's a green light when he's on the bases. Pitchers know it, and they can't stop him. He was 7 for 7 stealing bases last year, and it looked easy. And Craig Counsell told me he still has a lot of work to do with his base running. And you're going to see more stolen bases this year, too, with some of the new rules. So I think that arrow's pointing up for Garrett Mitchell. I would buy his jersey. He to me, is a star in the making.
Agreed. I don't disagree with that, and I think this injury is a minor setback, but we'll be fine from there.
He'll be back this week. I think he'll be back this week.
Yeah. Now, do you plug in still? Are you still plugged in with what's going on in Arizona, even though you are back?
Yeah, no, we've got Dom Catronio, who hosts our Brewers Extra Innings program on WTMJ in Arizona all month long. So I know a lot of players are scattered. It's a different looking clubhouse. You're starting to approach that first cut down, trim down time. Now is also the time where I'd start paying a little closer attention to the order. Maybe more so next week than this week, but you're going to start to see more regulars ramp up their at-bats, and you're going to start to see lineups that look like a lineup you might see in that first month of the season on any given day for Craig Counsell. So yeah, now's really the time to start paying close attention.
That's kind of where we're at, and we got WBC going on at the same time, which is great. So I know you got limited time here, so I'm going to just one more quick thing. If you had to say right now going into the season, what is your prediction? Where the Brewers fall, wins, losses, kind of. Everybody's kind of saying they're going to fight it out with the Cardinals, and
yeah, isn't it always the case, right? It's Brewers and maybe Cubs and Cardinals now, or once in a while it's the Reds. It's rarely the Pirates. I'm trying to remember the year where Vegas didn't have the Brewers somewhere between 85 and 89 wins. It's just like that. That's where they always are, and I think they're 86 and a half, maybe the last projection I saw for this season. I think it's a race to 90 wins. I think you get to 90 wins and you're a playoff team. The backbone of this team is starting pitching still. To me, they've got 3 All-Stars, recent All-Stars in their pitching staff. I think Eric Lauer's a nice find. I like having Wade Miley back, so now you got a couple lefties in that rotation. Mm-hmm. Devin Williams is your closer. I think getting to Devin Williams, I'm still wondering about that 6th, 7th, 8th inning, if a starter has to go early. 7th, 8th was locked down last year leading up to Josh Hader. Now, to me, that's still a bit of a question mark, so you got to get that figured out. But I don't think this offense is going to perform any worse than it did a year ago, even with some different and new faces. In fact, I'm hoping for an uptick, and I think, stolen bases, the shift rules, I think rules will help favor getting that ball in play, getting runners advanced. So hopefully that leads to an uptick in offense here for the Brewers. But, yeah, I think they're between 85 and 90 wins, but I think 90 is your comfort zone to be a playoff team.
Fair enough. I definitely agree with that. So with that being said, obviously you got to get running. So I'm going to just kick off the end of the show. If you need to jump out, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm just going to close it and I can come back with you at the end here.
Good stuff, man. Hey, good to talk to you. We'll do it anytime. Hope for a great season. And I'll be at Wrigley Field for opening day. Hopefully they get that one played.
Perfect. I was hoping to go down, but I don't know. Wrigley, it's just one of those experiences. So, well, thank you again for your time. I appreciate you.
Yeah, you bet, Eric. Thank you.
Yep. All right, guys. That was Greg Matzek of WTMJ. Gave us a brief amount of his time today. We really appreciate that. We are going to come back tomorrow on. I don't have a set idea yet, but tomorrow we are going to be coming back. We're going to talk some more WBC. We're going to break out the numbers of the WBC so far, and we will. We'll get what we can get going here. So that being said, guys, this has been Eric with the Miller Park Minute. You guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you for watching. And as always, go Brewers.
Thank you for watching the Miller Park Minute. Go Brewers.